Option number 4 under the miscellaneous set of assignments for your final project is a flash option. And it's just a bouncing ball, but there's a little bit of physics involved in it. So I'll show you the requirements and we'll get to looking at an example here in just a minute. This is the flash bouncing ball option underneath the miscellaneous. Now remember, the way this works is you can choose one or more of these, and they're going to help get you up to the 100 points that you want to shoot for, and could get you up to 110, 120 points depending on how many of these and which ones you do. Here are the requirements for the bouncing ball. The animation has to have at least 100 frames. The ball has to flatten slightly when it hits the bottom of the bounce cycle. And then the ball has to return to its more round shape as it bounces up. I'll give you a few tips and show you what I mean by that. You'll save your work on your network drive. This is your final project. This is one of the miscellaneous options, and this is just the bouncing ball, so we'll call it bounce. Final Misc Bounce. You would turn this in for on My Big Campus. It will be in the final miscellaneous category, and you would upload, it would be the bouncing ball option. Now I also have here on my website an example. Scroll this down a little bit so you can see it. It's down a little bit farther. And if you look carefully, you can see what I mean by the ball flattens out a little bit when it hits the bottom of the bounce cycle. This is physics. You know, a rubber ball actually does flatten a little bit when it hits the ground. This looks a little bit more realistic than just making a perfectly round ball just go up and down and up and down. So we'll take a look here at how you can make this happen in Flash. I'll work my way over to Flash. Here's the movie that you were just looking at. We can do a fit-in window here. And you'll see if I drag my playhead real slowly through here, that when the ball comes to the bottom of the stage, it's kind of flattening. But then as it goes up, it regains its round shape. Well, that's really the big requirement in this one. Let me give you a few tips. I'm going to start a new movie. I'll do fit-in window. I need a ball, so I'll use the oval tool. I've got my colors set to a black stroke and a red fill, and that's fine with me. I'm just going to draw a circle. And so that I'm sure that I don't separate the stroke from the fill, I'm just going to group it. Alright, we're ready to go. Ball's right here to begin with. I'm just going to press F6 and move it a little bit to make it fall. Press F6, move it a little bit more. Press F6, move it a little bit more. Press F6, move it a little bit more. Press F6, move it a little more. Press F6, and we're at the bottom of the stage. I'm just using the bottom of the stage like the ground. Here's where the physics comes in. Press F6 to make a new frame, but I'm going to use the transform tool and just take this top handle and squish it down a little bit. Press F6 again. I'm going to squish it down a little bit more. Press F6, maybe just a little bit more for good measure. Now I'll press F6 and it's going to begin to unsquish. Press F6, unsquish a little bit more. Press F6, it begins to lift up off the ground. We'll bring it back up. Pressing F6, moving it back up. And it looks like I got a pretty decent bounce cycle. Falls down, does its little squish, comes back up, looking pretty good. Folks, the rest of this is a piece of cake. Drag over the frames on the timeline, right-click and copy the frames. Go to your next empty frame, right-click and paste the frames. Continue to right-click and paste frames until you have at least 100 frames. Remember, 100 frames are required. I went a little bit past because of the length of my bounce cycle. That's fine. Let's take a look at it. Got that nice, good physics on the bounce where the ball squishes a little bit and then springs back up to be round again. It's looking perfect. There's a few tips on the bouncing ball. If you're planning on doing this movie, it's your turn.